Okay, let's settle this once and for all. Who really calls the shots? The director or the producer? I have my really good friend here, Gabe, who is a director that actually has no desire to produce. And we're going to hash it out here today on the producer's desk. And we're back. Hi, Gabe.
Hey.
Nice to have you here in front of the camera.
Good to be here.
How uncomfortable are you?
Extremely uncomfortable.
Because you are actually so good behind the camera.
That's where I belong. Yeah.
That's right.
No one's paying money for this.
Well, I would. I have, we go back like, I was trying to do the math. Isn't it over 10 years?
Well, yeah, we kind of grew up together through that trial of fire of those independent films that we were working on, because the first film that I did was not too far away from that. I think it was the next year that I did my first feature film, directed my first feature, and you were just at the same time getting into producing your own features, and we were just learning together, and we were making mistakes and figuring it out kind of side by side.
And now we did make, I said it in the beginning in my intro, but producing's never been your thing, right?
No, no interest.
Which I love. I love that. That was never a struggle we had, because sometimes when I work with directors, you've got a bit of a power struggle in that line. You get them wanting to shift over here, where I'm really trying to handle these logistics, get them what they want.
Right.
And
I have
they're
zero
in
interest.
there.
Zero interest.
You don't like to be in that logistical lane, but creatively there is a balance to be struck between producer and director, because producers tend, to find their way into that lane and sometimes have more of a say than they should.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the producer and the director make the film together.
Yeah.
And I think most people need to really understand that it should be a really creative, positive partnership. There's things you need to understand about both jobs where people will start to clash. The director has this vision for what the film is, and the producer has a vision of how they're going to make the film, and sometimes they don't always agree. The directors, there's things that people don't understand about the other job, and I think...
Well, and that's partly why I wanted to have this conversation with you, is to also kind of really delineate those lines, and I do think there is a little bit of a gray area there, because sometimes creatively the producer, say, may have brought that script in and had a vision for that too, and now we're trying to work with you and align with your vision, but then sometimes those don't align. And it's balancing out, how do we find that middle ground? And I gotta say with you, sometimes you're very opinionated. And
that is the director's job, to have an opinion.
and I know that we've clashed sometimes because of that. And also not just you, other directors I've hit heads with, because I think, well, I'm the producer and I hired you and I'm the boss of this thing.
The attitude that both the director and the producer should have is that here is our vision for the film, and we're working together to create the vision. The director is the more creative side. He's coming at it with a very specific vision for how the shots go, how the lighting looks, how what the actor looks like, how they sound, how every little piece is something that we've been probably sitting with it for years. And so that's something that you need to understand about directors, is we've been sitting with this script, breaking it down, moment by moment, line by line, seeing it and seeing this amazing movie in our heads, this Oscar-winning movie in our heads that is incredible. And then you hear what your budget's going to be. You're like, okay, well, that's not going to be exactly what I had in my mind. But again, all the while, your vision for the film is ticking down, 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 down. And then at the end of the day, the producer's like, how much more time do you need to finish this scene? You're like, well, I have these 5 more shots planned, and that's going to do it. They're like, can you do it in 2?
Yes.
And then your vision of the film was like, tick, 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 down, 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 until finally you're maybe at 20%. of the vision that you had for this amazing film that was going to move the world. And now you are down to like 20% of the vision. It's not that that 20% is a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's just not what you had in mind for the vision.
Yeah.
So that, but that's when the good relationship hopefully kicks in. If you have a good relationship with a producer, they say, okay, I know what you want to do, but let's challenge ourselves to figure out a creative way to finish this scene in 2 shots. And that's a good challenge. That sets my creativity afire. It's like, okay, how could I do that? How could I, instead of saying, nope, we're going to turn your cameras off, we're going to turn your lights off, and you're not going to get what you need.
And you said we progressed in our relationship because there was an instant, it was probably my 3rd film, it was Apostle Peter.
Yeah, it's my first one I directed, yeah.
And it was one of those moments. I was like, oh my God. And it was like, you can't go into overtime. So now I'm like taking that literally like we're cutting it, everything's gonna get shut down. And you and I were right there and we were faced off. Like it was like it was night shoot. Do you remember that? And,
right.
And I don't know, in the moment I was like, am I really gonna pull the plug on it? Like,
No, I think we figured it out.
But I felt like we had that was like my first experience of like, oh my gosh, I'm going head to head with this guy. And I don't know, can I do this? Am I supposed to? I am. I'm the producer. It was such a mix of emotion.
Right. A film like that first film we did together, Apostle, I think we shot that in 9 or 11 days.
I know, it's something
like
ridiculous.
that. So that's a ridiculous, really short amount of time to produce a movie in.
Yeah.
So everybody was under the gun. Everyone was feeling that pressure. Normally you would have at least 20 days or whatever to shoot a film.
Yeah.
And doing it in half that time creates a panic in everybody. And it chips away at your mental health. Like
I know.
This business is tough that way because you want to make a brilliant award-winning film, and then you're like, okay, you have 2 hours to get this car chase scene. It's like, well, okay, so
it's not going to be that award-winning.
Yeah, exactly.
You're clear that you didn't have any interest in producing, but do you feel like you could empathize with my position at all? Like, as a director, understanding what we're up against.
Yeah, of course. I have a narrow beam of focus of just what's right in front of the camera, and everything else is unimportant to the director.
Like those moments when we clash and we'd have those things, like understanding why I'm having to say, hey, I can't go into overtime today, and you can't have that couch, you have to have that couch, or like.
Sure. I mean, I understand it. I obviously having the kind of emotional maturity to roll with it and not flip out is just something you get with experience.
Right. Have you ever flipped out?
Oh, yeah.
What's your biggest flip out?
My biggest flip outs is when people are just kind of like, that's not my job. That's when I get really upset. We're on an indie film, and there's not union, it's just, and people are just standing around, and I'm like, hey, can I get some? It would be really more beautiful, like on Apostle Peter, if we had some fog there in the background, and everyone's just kind of standing around looking at each other. I'm like, anyone? Can anyone grab the fog machine and run back there and get me that? And everyone's just like, well, no, we can't do this, we can't do that. I'm like, okay. So I went, then it's me. Again, the relationship from the producer is trying to make sure that the creative impulses that the director has, they trust them, and they think, okay, we're going to try to support the director's vision here. And if he or she wants smoke in the background, let's make that happen.
So, what's something you've learned from working with a great producer? This is in no way swayed.
You mean this great producer? I mean, really, just to be collaborative, like to talk to your producer, try to get ahead of things, instead of needing something at the last minute and suddenly. Okay,
well, I feel like we've answered the question, and it really comes back down to, just like any relationship, it's about communication, it's a partnership, and when you have that, you really have the formula for making some real magic on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, it really helps to not only have a good working relationship, but just have a friend relationship
Yeah.
with your producer. To
Yeah.
be friendly with them, to actually have a relationship off set, you know, where you communicate constantly and you're supporting each other and, you know, hanging out and
Or you come over and take headshots of my cat. I mean, you are Uncle Gabe.
That's right.
You're
You
Uncle
know,
Gabe to Henry and Rocky.
that's right.
They have the
it
best
helps.
headshots ever.
It helps them immensely to not be
Yeah.
a stranger to the person that
Yeah.
you're basically your partners making this film. The producer and the director are the two biggest
Yeah.
voices on set, and they have to be in sync, and they have to be, you know, supporting the other's decisions and not working against each other. You can't have that on every film, but that's what you want to strive for. It's just going to make the product better, the film better at the end of the day.
Totally agreed. And maybe down the line here, we'll get to work on something really sexy together and
Hope so.
have some fun.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
I actually had a proper budget for one of these big action films or something I would try to do, you'll see something good.
Okay. Thank you, Gabe, for joining me. I mean, you made this really easy, you know, us being friends and all. So, but I'm happy that I actually learned something about you today. See, even after a decade, look. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And again, so the key takeaway here, guys, is that great relationships make great movies. So it's not director versus producer, it's director plus producer. So if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Now, but our next episode, we are talking to a photographer turned filmmaker who's producing his first movie. Can he do it? Next on the producer's desk.